Hello and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. I'm Kevin Castley. Tonight we're doing a shorter stream here. I'm going to be discussing the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court of the United States. We did a second stream earlier this evening talking about the riots that are unfolding in Philadelphia in the wake of Walter Wallace killing. Now that we talk about how obviously the police were justified there. This one here, I think that's fairly uncontroversial as an opinion. This one here is a little bit different. This one I expect, degree of debate, controversy within our community around this. I obviously have my opinion. I'll be talking about that in a moment, but I do want to first go to a clip by NBC showing it's about 4 minute speech by Barrett following her confirmation. So let's take a look at that.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you all for being here tonight. And thank you, President Trump, for selecting me to serve as an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. It's a privilege to be asked to serve my country in this office, and I stand here tonight truly honored and humbled. Thanks also to the Senate for giving its consent to my appointment. I am grateful for the confidence you have expressed in me, and I pledge to you and to the American people that I will discharge my duties to the very best of my ability. This was a rigorous confirmation process, and I thank all of you, especially Leader McConnell and Chairman Graham, for helping me to navigate it. My heartfelt thanks go to the members of the White House staff and Department of Justice who worked tirelessly to support me through this process. Your stamina is remarkable, and I have been the beneficiary of it. Jesse and I are also so grateful to the many people who have supported our family over these last several weeks. Through ways both tangible and intangible, you have made this day possible. Jesse and I have been truly awestruck by your generosity. I have spent a good amount of time over the last month at the Senate, both in meetings with individual senators and in days of hearings before the Senate Judiciary Committee. The confirmation process has made ever clearer to me one of the fundamental differences between the federal judiciary and the United States Senate. And perhaps the most acute is the role of policy preferences. It is the job of a senator to pursue her policy preferences. In fact, it would be a dereliction of duty for her to put policy goals aside. By contrast, it is the job of a judge to resist her policy preferences. It would be a dereliction of duty for her to give in to them. Federal judges don't stand for election. Thus, they have no basis for claiming that their preferences reflect those of the people. This separation of duty from political preference is what makes the judiciary distinct among the three branches of government. A judge declares independence not only from Congress and the president, but also from the private beliefs that might otherwise move her. The judicial oath captures the essence of the judicial duty. The rule of law must always control. My fellow Americans, even though we judges don't face elections, we still work for you. It is your Constitution that establishes the rule of law and the judicial independence that is so central to it. The oath that I have solemnly taken tonight means at its core that I will do my job without any fear or favor, and that I will do so independently of both the political branches and of my own preferences. I love the Constitution and the democratic republic that it establishes, and I will devote myself to preserving it. Thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube.
Yeah, we don't need to see the end part there with Lester Holt. That's you know, and check out NBC. They're the ones that have that clip there. But basically, so that's her confirmation speech. I was talking with Henry earlier on this evening. We were streaming about the riots occurring in Philadelphia, and he remarked that, you know, in terms of the actual substance of what she's saying, it's a good speech. I would agree with that. So the question then is, you know, how honest is she being there? And of course, that remains to be seen. A lot of people are dubious about that, but you know, if it were the other way around and you had Obama appoint or confirm rather a Supreme Court justice, you'd have a lot of conservatives that were suspicious that they weren't going to be partisan. And so, you know, it goes both ways in that regard. What I'm going to be talking about tonight then isn't really so much about her politics or whatnot. It's going to be talking about going forward and specifically about the, I guess, the ethics of what just happened, because there are those who will say, right, elections in what, like less than a week, and she's confirmed beforehand. Well, I've made this case before, and I'm making it again now. I've said this for a long time. Consequences matter. Consequences, or elections matter. Elections have consequences. If you're voting for a president to be president for 4 years, and it's one of the duties of the president to appoint justices to the Supreme Court, well, but they actually only get 2.9 years or 2.7 years or 3.2 years to do that. Well, that makes no sense. Now, a lot of people are upset because, you know, Obama attempted to appoint Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court, or appointed him to the Supreme Court. Obviously didn't get that through. That had to wait. And the argument was a position from the Republicans, and notably Mitch McConnell, that, well, you know, it's too close to the election. We should wait for the election and let the people decide, as opposed to Obama just selecting an appointment. Here's the problem with that. You're the president for 4 years. You're not the president for 3 years. You're not the president for 3.2 years. You're the president for 4 years. You're the president, and a seat becomes vacated. You get to appoint a justice to replace that seat on the court. That's how it works. That's how it works. So if Trump gets 3 appointments, well, yeah, that's what happens. He's the president. Think about it this way. Now you can say, well, it's close to the election. Okay, but it's 4 years. Because it's either 4 years or it's not. Because then where do you draw the line? Because if you draw the line in a year before the election, then you're only actually really fully president for 3 years. That's dumb. That's dumb. Then you just have a vacuum of power for a year. That's stupid. Then you can say, hey, man, that's Mitch McConnell's logic. That's not Obama's logic. Yeah, but Obama went along with it. So that's on Obama. That's not on Donald Trump. Donald Trump isn't a sucker like that. So yeah, we got Arthur in the chat. He's pointing out, you know, 1 year is too close to the election, but 1 week is no problem. Republican logic. Yeah, no, I've said before, and I'll say it again. Mitch McConnell was definitely hypocritical. No doubt about it. 100% hypocritical. Here's the thing. Was he unprincipled to do that? No, he's a principled conservative. He's going to play politics either way, whatever helps his side. He's so principled in his convictions that he's literally willing to be a hypocrite in order to get the, you know, his vision through. Now, you don't fight that by saying, oh, you know, you guys didn't play fair or whatnot. No, it was on Obama. He could have done differently. He chose to go along with what the Republicans were telling him. That's his bad. What you want to see is Democrats doing the same thing. You want to see Democrats, if you're a Democrat, you want to see Democrats playing by the same rules as the Republicans. You don't want to see the Republicans playing politics and then the Democrats saying it's not fair. That's obviously, you're not going to get wins that way. You want a strong team. They have a strong team. You want a strong team, right? So the answer isn't, Trump should be like Obama. It's Obama should have been like Trump. Let's just keep it real about that. And let's say it's a week before the election and all 9 Supreme Court justices retire. Then whoever's the president gets to appoint 9 Supreme Court justices. They just get to pick the court. That's how it works. You're president for 4 years. So the obvious implication here is that, the election matters. So you don't just get to say, oh, let's wait a year or whatnot because there was an election. So make sure to vote for the candidate that you think is the lesser evil then, or the candidate that you actually like. So that's the thing. So there's nothing that the Democrats could have done here to stop it. That's just kind of how it goes. But the question arises now going forward. Well, if you're the Democrats and this occurred, that's, makes you look kind of weak. Well, that's unfortunate to your agenda. Question arises, do you pack the court? And I just want to be very clear here. I'm sure the viewers of this channel get it, right? Not like some of the brainlet brigades over on Twitter, but just to clarify, packing the court doesn't mean appointing people that you like to the Supreme Court. Packing the court means actually increasing the number of justices on the court and then putting those that you like on it to counterbalance or to outweigh how it was existing under the 9 system. So the 9 justice system. So are the Democrats going to pack the court? Well, Kamala Harris, she didn't have a good answer to that. Joe Biden didn't have a good answer to that. They might attempt to do it. I think that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to win. I think they're going to win. And if they seek to pack the court, they might, for a few years, get a victory out of it. But the Supreme Court is a thing that has an effect for decades, right? Like this 6-3 imbalance on the court, this is going to affect politics in the United States for a long, long time. So if the Democrats want to get like a 3 or 4 year victory out of packing the Supreme Court, say increasing it to 12 and then adding 3 of their own justices on to make it in their favor, you can be dang sure that when the Republicans win in 2024, and if the Democrats are dumb enough to pack the court, the Republicans are going to win in 2024. They're going to have 8 years then. You can be sure they're going to pack the court, and they're going to pack it more bigly, as Trump would say, right? So it's not a winning strategy. It's not a winning strategy. What the Democrats' best bet to do here is to take the L and essentially not be naive like Obama in the future and actually fight and play hard politics the way the Republicans do. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. And if you go the route of packing the court, just understand that the Republicans will retaliate. They will pack it back in their favor, and that will still last a very long time. The most that the Democrats can get out of this is like a few years of advantage on the court, going outside the box like that. I don't think that's a winning strategy in the long run. The court's about long-term victories and whatnot. Playing a short-term tactical victory at the expense of losing the war rather in the long run, that's dumb in my view. So you got to take the L, and you got to learn going forward. If you're the Democrats, you need people like Mitch McConnell. You do not need people like Bernie Sanders. You do not need people like Chuck Schumer. You do not need people like Nancy Pelosi. You don't need weak people. You don't need people like Obama who are going to say, oh, you're right, let's be fair and that kind of stuff and everything. No, you need fighters. You need people that can learn from McConnell instead of saying, oh, that was mean, that was bad. You need to understand, hey, look, we should probably learn from that, that would be what a hawk would do, right? A hawk would say, yeah, we're going to play tough. They want to play tough, we'll play tough, right? So for me, obviously, I'm pretty social liberal. I've got a lot of issues with ACB. On some of her economic stuff, yeah, can go either way, right? I think, will she actually be impartial? I'm kind of dubious about it. But I'm dubious about every single justice on there because they all say they're going to be impartial, right? But there's a clear divide. There are clearly liberals and conservatives, right? I think that when it comes to this, I think the idea of packing the court is ludicrous. I think that it would be the most perfect way to hand the Republicans 8 years of power or more and still lose because now they have every justification possible to pack it, and you know that they'll pack it to a larger extent. And then what are you going to do? Are you even going to get power again? Or is it just going to happen that, the Republicans become the natural governing party at that point? Because people see that, oh, you actually pack the court or whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, they can pack the court if they're able to get the votes and everything through. They could do it, legitimately pack the court. But I'm just telling you, don't think that the Republicans won't do the same once they get in power. And they'll probably win the next election then, because people are not going to approve of packing the court. They're going to see it as unfair. Even if you think that it's something that does make sense, given how Obama was, naive in the face of Mitch McConnell and whatnot. I'm just telling you, it's not going to work out for you in the long run. And over a span of 3 or 4 years, yes, you might get some judicial victories out of it. Over a span of 20 years, no, because then the Republicans are going to pack in their favor for the other 16 years, and they're going to get all the victories out of it. So it just seems like a losing game, and it's unfortunate that Harris and Biden didn't have better answers on that. But we'll take a look at the chat here. Like I said, this will be a bit of a shorter stream. Billy Bong's here. He says they had good timing. Nicholas says, so the fact that Obama couldn't when he won speaks to hypocrisy and cynicism. It's all about power. Well, Obama was weak. Like, sure, he won the presidency, but he didn't have the backbone that, say, Mitch McConnell would if he was president, or even Donald Trump. And, of course, Donald Trump takes the advice of Mitch McConnell. Let's just be honest about it. Mitch McConnell is a stronger leader than Obama ever was, right? So just because you're the president doesn't mean that you're going to get everything through, doesn't mean that you're going to fight. You still have to fight once you're president. You're not like a dictator or anything. So Nicholas says, no, it's not all Obama. The best move he can make is expose the hypocrisy. At least with that, he succeeded. Yeah, but okay, Mitch McConnell can say, okay, well, yeah, I'm a hypocrite, but I won. So what's your point? Like, come on, it really doesn't matter. Is Mitch McConnell going to choose between being a principled conservative and getting his vision through? Or is he going to care about like some hypocrisy when it comes to time length differences with regards to the Supreme Court? Like, that's not something that's not a hill that people die on. Conservatism is a hill that people die on. Technical procedures and stuff and parliamentary civility, that kind of thing. Yeah, not really. America has a different system than a parliamentary system, with like unwritten constitution and whatnot. America has a written constitution. You can do whatever you want within that. It's a much more adversarial system in that regard. So the lesson for the Democrats shouldn't be, oh, Mitch McConnell was mean. It should be, why couldn't Obama be mean? We need to get somebody mean like Mitch McConnell for the Democrats. Right? You guys need a fighter, basically. That would be the answer there. Nicholas says, Democrats have to sweep the board, surge into power, earn that privilege to act with the same kind of impunity. If that means packing the court, so be it. Nah, there's a bit of a difference there. Appointing your justices and not caring what the Republicans think about it, absolutely. That's what they should have been doing. And that's what Obama should have done. Packing the court? No, that's dumb, because then the Republicans are going to come in and they're going to pack the court even more. And they're going to be totally justified in doing so. And you can't accuse them of being hypocrites because you're the first people to pack the court. So, right? It's not a winning strategy there. Not a winning strategy. Nicholas says, so Democrats, damned if they do, damned if they don't. Yeah, well, that's Obama's fault. That's not Mitch McConnell's fault. You can blame Obama for that. So Obama was a weak president. They should have had a stronger president. Arthur says, I think they should pack the court, not to win, just so when a justice resigns, it's not a major shift to one side or the other. Okay, well, that's a more worthwhile debate to have there is, well, the advantage to packing the court in either side is that it takes away the magnitude of one justice. But, I'm kind of with Henry on this one. I think keeping it small, just in general, is a lot easier than having like a full committee and everything. Having 9 justices on the whole makes it just, in the other side of things, it does mean that each justice is more important. But again, it's the Supreme Court. I think keeping it under 10 is good, you know, and you could get a Democratic version of Trump in that appoints 3 justices at some point, right? Then, and that's totally fine. But the problem is, once you go down the Pandora's box of expanding it and expanding it and expanding it, what are we going to do? Have 8,229 justices, 96,842 justices? It's like, where does it stop? That's the problem. So Wilson says, but then the Republicans will do the same. It delegitimizes the court. Yeah, no, I think that there's an argument to be made there that the second anybody packs it, if it's the Democrats or the Republicans, that will delegitimize it. It's legitimate now. You run the risk of it having no legitimacy if you just use it to pack it like that. Arthur says the Republicans don't care if it's imbalanced. It already is. Well, no, they care as long as it's imbalanced in their favor. That's what they want. I'm just saying, I'm just giving some advice here to the Democrats. You guys need to stop caring about like what looks nice and whatnot, and learn how to play politics like the Republicans. You'll start getting victories that way. Nicholas says, here's some hawk talk. Shit like this brand of American arrogance, this damages America's standing in the world more than any Russian disinformation or Chinese propaganda could. I'm not actually even sure what that's a reference to. Not sure what that's a reference to. Wilson says, why does it matter if it's imbalanced as long as the judges are impartial? Well, they're not impartial. Let's just be real about that. They're not impartial. It's clearly a 6-3 conservative versus liberal distribution. Right? Sometimes the different justices can vote against their liberal or conservative leanings, but they do have those liberal or conservative leanings. So Wilson says judicial activists should not be allowed on the courts. How would you filter that out though? Because they can just say, they could say like Coney Barrett said, a judge is to be impartial, and that's my job. How would you say, oh, you're lying or you're not lying? How would you know? How would you be able to say that, like in a foolproof sort of context? Billy Bong says, I don't think the Supreme Court should have the right to decide abortion. It seems like the people should decide on matters that people should decide on. Arthur says, if Dems don't pack the court, they're going to be weak. Should be more like Mitch McConnell. Yeah, well, okay. I'm not saying that they can't, by the way. I'm not actually saying that they can't. I want to be very clear here, because Arthur's saying Dems can't be nice, Dems can't be mean. Like, in other words, it's a catch-22. No. I'm telling you right now, say Biden wins and they get the votes and everything and they decide to pack the court. Well, there's a legal process. They can do it. I'm just telling you, over 4 years, that'll be a win for them. Over 20 years, it'll be a loss for them, because the Republicans will come into power. They'll get their 8 years or their 12 years or whatever, and they'll just pack the court a lot more, and they'll get all the victories after that. So I don't think it's a winning strategy there. Now, you can say, well, the Republicans are going to get victories now. The difference is that down the road, you will be able to appoint more people, and you can change that balance of power while still keeping the court legitimate. If you go down that route of just completely packing it, and then they pack it, and then you pack it, and they pack it, then it delegitimizes the court. It essentially, you run the risk of then, there's no legitimate arbiter of the Constitution, so anything goes. That's kind of a problem. That's what can create constitutional crises and whatnot, because if those who are to decide on what's a fair resolution to a potential constitutional crisis, if they're not seen as legitimate, then that's the recipe for a civil war at that point. That's one of the problems with a lot of the third world countries, the underdeveloped countries, rampant with corruption in Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe, etc. They don't have developed institutional infrastructure. They don't have a long-run trust in their court system. So if the courts decide on something, people see it as illegitimate, and then it leads to a civil war. you don't want America going down that route. You have to keep these institutions legitimate. If that means putting up with, like, say, 10 years of the Republicans having an advantage, that's better than getting a short-term tactical advantage, and then they do likewise, and then you do likewise until it's just completely dilute. And then when a constitutional crisis does happen, nobody takes the Supreme Court seriously. Well, the buck is supposed to stop with them. Now who decides on constitutional issues? Oh, well, now it comes down to the military and different factions in the military fighting it out. That's not good. So if you want America to stay a superpower, you can't go down that route. It's a Pandora's box. So Kamaljeet Ram is here. It says Obama's weak when it comes to foreign policy and cracking down on threats like North Korea and Russia. 100%. Obama was just a weak leader. We'll take more glances at the chat. Nicola says, funny that the GOP is up in arms about the Dems manipulating the court. If Hillary were president, McConnell would have been SCOTUS, would have SCOTUS be 3-3, and he's in flux. If Clinton was weak and say the Republicans controlled like the bulk of the of the Senate and everything, then I guess she couldn't get very many people through. McConnell would keep it at that sort of that sort of level, as opposed to having the Democrats get the advantage. Obviously, what else would he do? But you would hope that Hillary Clinton would have been a stronger president than Obama. I believe she would have been way stronger than Obama. I mean, just her rhetoric on Syria alone was so much stronger than Obama. Obama would say, "Oh, it's a red line," and then Assad gasses the people again, and then Obama's like, "Oh, well, what am I supposed to do?" And the Pentagon's like, "Dude, you drew a red line. You said you would bomb him." Obama's like, "Yeah, but I was hoping that he wouldn't know that I was bluffing, bro." And then Putin comes in and says, "Oh, I got a peace deal, bro." And then Obama takes it because Obama was weak, dude. Obama was a weak leader, if you can call him a leader. Hillary Clinton would have been strong. So W.R. Winter says the ones shrieking going to the nuclear option because they lost are Democrats. Yeah, it's the nuclear option. I guess you could say that packing the court for the Democrats would be like the atomic option. But then the Republicans then get to use the thermonuclear option, which is they pack it, and they pack it by, say, twice as much as whatever the Democrats did in their 4 years. But when they do it, nobody's going to see it as illegitimate. I'm telling you, if the Democrats pack it, they'll have some support on the left, right? On the left, right? But then there's going to be a huge population, a huge percentage of the population of the United States that's going to say, well, that's illegitimate. That's obviously them, going outside of the established system, even if they're legally within their right to do it, which they could be, depending on how they go about doing it. It could be constitutional for them to pack the court, right? I mean, obviously, they're not going to go the Civil War route. The only way that would happen is if they went through it, the legal process. You can do it. Well, a lot of people are going to say that's ridiculous. They've gone outside. They're sore losers, that kind of thing. But you say, who cares? Those people can whine and cry. Yeah, I hear you, right? Like a winner, a lion would say, well, to hell with them. I'm going to do what I want, right? But then I'm telling you, now the Republicans are going to win because they're going to play on that. And they're going to say, hey, look, these guys pack the courts. So vote for us and we'll undo the damage. Now the Republicans are going to get in and then they'll pack the courts. And like I said, it'll be the thermonuclear option. They'll pack it way bigger than Democrats did. Will people be whining as much? There will be people on the left that are going to cry about it. But they can't really call the Republicans hypocrites because the Democrats would be the ones to initiate it. So that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. Even if you go the nuclear option, the Republicans then get to use the thermonuclear option. So this is why elections matter. In short, the Democrats are screwed no matter what they do for now. I'm just saying that in the long run, you're better off not going down that Pandora's box of potentially delegitimizing the Supreme Court as an institution after having battles and battles where the Republicans take it and then you take it and then they take it and you take it. until it's so dilute that it doesn't matter, because there will be a crisis at some point along there. And then when the Supreme Court goes to rule on it, whatever they rule on it, half the country is going to say, or even more of the country is going to say, hey, look, they're not even legitimate. It's a corrupt entity at this point. Because when there was a crisis that happened in Florida, for example, and it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court decided that Bush won the election, a lot of people were outraged, but people respected the institution. There wasn't a civil war. If that kind of thing happens after you pack it, then the Republicans pack it, and then you pack it, and the Republicans pack it, and then the Supreme Court rules that say the Republicans were on the right there, well, now the Democrats aren't even going to acknowledge that that was a legitimate ruling. And so then you go to a civil war at that point. Now it's literally, it's divisions of the army versus divisions of the army fighting each other. That's not going to work. That would be the end of the liberal order. I mean, you're basically giving the world to Russia and China at that point. If America goes into years of a civil war, you're done. Like, that's it. That's it. It's game over for the West at that point, because America is the vanguard of liberty. So if America disappears, Western Europe disappears, Canada disappears, we all become subjugated by the enemies of freedom in Russia and China. So, and they'd love to have that happen. Well, we got a lot of people here in the chat tonight. Nicholas says hypocrites, but then what's new? Yeah, no, I just want to make it very clear. I really don't think that McConnell cares if you accuse him of being a hypocrite, because he is a hypocrite. He's comfortable with that. He's a principled conservative who's so principled that he's willing to be a hypocrite in order to get his agenda through. If you're a Democrat, you should want leaders like that. You shouldn't want leaders like Obama. You should want to learn from McConnell and do like McConnell. That's how you win. That's how you take dubs. That's my advice. Like, if I was in the United States, I'd be a socially liberal Republican, basically, right? But my advice to the Democrats then would be, learn how to play politics, right? W.R. Winter asked, would GOP threaten or equivocate on court packing if the situation was reversed? I'm not sure. If it was reversed, that and it was the case that there was a Democrat in charge and they brought it up to a 6-3 in favor of the liberals, would McConnell go for a short-term victory by packing it? Or would he understand that then the Democrats are going to win again and they're just going to pack it even more? My guess is he would probably not move to pack the court in that case, because he knows, he's smart enough to understand that, hey, look, if you get your 4 years and you pack it, then the Democrats are probably going to win every election afterwards, and they're just going to pack it again and again and again. So it cancels out whatever gains you made in that 4 years, and now they're getting even bigger gains now. I'm sure McConnell would be smart enough to understand that and say, yeah, I can get a short-term win here by packing it, but then lose the war. I'm sure he wouldn't be on board with that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if it were reversed, he'd be saying, oh, yeah, we need to pack the court and everything. But then I'd be saying to him, hey, look, man, don't be surprised then when the Democrats win a huge victory and pack it massively in their favor. And they argue, hey, look, it was fair. They went outside the box and you know, they were sore losers and stuff. So, you know, you got to give the election to us. Like, I'm telling you, man, if it was reversed, I'm sure Mitch McConnell would be smart enough to understand how that would go. That he wouldn't be dumb enough to take a short-term tactical win here in exchange to lose the war, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys think? Nicholas says, as if they care about ideology, it's all about power. That's not true. Mitch McConnell, I know he has an ideology. I know he's not really much of a social liberal and stuff. I'm positive he's an ideologically resolute kind of conservative guy, right? So, and he does care about power, but would he be willing to like become a communist or something to get power? No. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But Arthur says we should nuke North Korea just to make Kyle Kulinski mad. Oh, yeah, and then make Dylan Burns mad, too. And I'll be debating Dylan Burns about that shortly. So, Nicholas says, my view, the president is set. The task now is to sweep the Dems into power. They better make sure they can cover their asses, and afterwards it's all theirs. Wait, do you mean the president of Supreme Court packing, or appointing those that you support regardless of what the other side says? Because if you're going to say Supreme Court packing, I disagree. But if you say they should appoint wherever they want, if anybody steps down or whatnot, then yeah, absolutely, they're on their right to do so. No, Kevin wants to start World War III. Yeah, no, that's Kremlin Kyle right there. War bad. Hillary wants to start World War III. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Spooky Nukies is here. We got Dr. Nukies. He says, nothing to see here. Religious lunatic is elevated to one of the most powerful positions in the country for life. How depressing. Well, I'm curious, Reese. What do you think? I'm pretty sure we talked about this before. Do you think that the Democrats should pack the court for 4 years? Because, I'm convinced that the Republicans would pack it even more than afterwards, and that it would still be a massive win for the Republicans over the course of, say, 10 years. But what do you think? Arthur says, Reese, save us from this cursed nomination. Nicholas says, at Spooky Nukies, a religious lunatic, a political operative second, or a religious lunatic first, a political operative second, a judge third. Spooky Nuki says, well, she's a Christian, so yes. Wait. Wait, that's a meme. That's a meme. Hey, Reese, have you seen Cuties? Just out of left field. No, strange question. Yeah, no, if you, okay, this is weird. If you have seen Cuties, there might be something wrong with you. I'm just saying. Politics is always about accumulating power, but McConnell is something else entirely. Hey, look, I'll tell you this. If I'm in McConnell's position, I'm basically doing the same thing that he did, right? Regardless of which party I'm on, whatnot, what my ideology is or whatever. Look, okay, you can disagree with his principles and all that stuff, but you got to keep it real. Mitch McConnell is a winner. He takes dubs. He's a professional winner. You want him on your team because he knows how to get you wins, right? They've got a bumbling, incompetent fool who's fumbling and mumbling out there, Donald Trump. But he listens to Mitch McConnell, and he's like, hey, man, you run this show. And Mitch McConnell, he gets dubs. And Mitch McConnell doesn't even care about getting credit either. He doesn't care. He's like, oh, yeah, Trump, you can take the credit for it. He doesn't care because he has his vision. He has his agenda. And, people that follow it know that Mitch McConnell is kind of in charge. No, Mitch McConnell, you can't say, oh, he takes W's. That's unfair. No, you got to say, hey, he takes W's. We should be like him. I'm not saying you become conservative or anything. I'm saying you need liberal versions of Mitch McConnell, right? Because Obama's weak, super weak. So, Swiggy Nuki says, I'm not an originalist, at least not how originalist has come to be defined. Says, oh, I don't. Oh, in reference to trusting Republican Christians. Okay, Spooky Nukies asks, random question related to a script I'm working on. Kevin, what do you think about U.S. sanctions on Iran that inadvertently make medicine acquirement more difficult? Oh, man, that's such a meme. That's such a meme. Okay, so I'll give you my take on that. If you are dependent on an enemy, and in particular a rogue regime like Iran, for any kind of medicine, you screwed up somewhere along the way. So I'm a little bit of a protectionist, right? I'm going to have a video out soon, Although protectionism never hurt anybody. When it comes to essential things like medicine, medical technology, military components, that kind of stuff, essential electrical components. You got to make that at home. You can't outsource that stuff, right? You're outsourcing medicine to Iran. Yeah, you kind of screwed up. But I'm also against the sanctions. And you might say, what? How can you be against the sanctions? You're Kevin Cassidy. You're like the neocon ghoul, right? No, I'm against the sanctions. I talked about this before. Look, I love video games. I'm going to have the gaming channel going up. That's going to be good. That's going to be lit once I get on my boomer ways and figure out how to stream on OBS. I like video games. I play Civilization, play Fortnite, play Call of Duty, play DEF CON. We're gonna stream Rocket League, all kinds of stuff. Gonna stream Among Us. I like video games, but like let's kind of keep it real. Unless you're making money streaming it, any gains that you get within the game, it seems like you're winning and you're moving up and you're leveling up. It's a false sense of accomplishment. I know I used to be addicted to World of Warcraft when I was a teenager, for example, younger teenager, like 14, that kind of range. I was addicted to World of Warcraft, played it a long time, and you get that rush, and you're like, oh man, like I'm doing stuff. But in reality, no, you're not doing anything. Now, granted, like Booga, he won $3 million playing Fortnite, so he was doing something, right? Was it a false sense of accomplishment for him? No, he won the Worlds. So good for him. 99.99999% of the players of that game are never going to the Worlds. They're not getting that 25,000 minimum, right? So any gains that you have, I mean, it's fun, it's entertainment and stuff, but like if you're focused on leveling up and all that stuff, false sense of accomplishment, right? Likewise with sanctions. Sanctions ultimately constitute a false sense of accomplishment for policymakers. So they make you feel that you're doing something, moving in the right direction without having to do war. But in reality, what do? They hurt the most vulnerable in the country first, the regime last, obviously. And they give the policymakers the sense that they're making a difference and they're doing enough. They're doing something. And then what does that allow the regime to do? It allows the regime to pursue nuclear weapons programs, enrich uranium, work on their ballistic missile program, become a nuclear menace, as North Korea proved. So on the whole, I'm skeptical and hesitant about sanctions because I believe that sanctions ultimately they delay or draw out or ultimately make war impossible to wage once they get enough nukes that they can sufficiently deter you. So for me, I'm a preemptive strike kind of guy. Like if you ask me, sanctions or mushroom clouds over their strategic facilities, we all know I'm going with the latter, right? So I'm not a fan of sanctions in general. But sanctioning a country that you're even dependent on, that's dumb, man. Why would you be dependent on Iran for anything? That's pathetic. And I mean, it's such a weak argument too, because obviously it's true, but so what? So then you substitute, you make stuff at home. May it take some time to make up for that. Iran is such a menace that you can't wait. They're going to get nukes. So this argument, but there's some medicines or whatnot. Dude, who cares? The bigger fish to fry, right? So that's my thoughts on that, Reese. So thanks for the question. Winter says, I think at worst, McConnell could threaten court packing as a rhetorical move, not to mention there wouldn't be a deluge of New York Times editorials endorsing court packing as the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah, that's true. That's true. People that are selling you court packing and saying, hey, look, man, I mean, could be a good way. Yeah, for 4 years. Let's look at 16 years. The Republicans are winning most of that over 16 years because they'll pack it. Arthur Izar says Dems should focus on abolishing the Electoral College instead of packing the court. That would kneecap the Republican Party indefinitely. I'm not so sure that it would because, and Reese has talked about this too. If you made it about the popular vote always comes to within about 1 to 3 percentage points, right? Hillary Clinton only won by about 1.5% or something, or 2%. It was like 3 million votes. If you get rid of the Electoral College and you go towards a popular vote, now all those Republicans in California and New York, now they matter too, whereas they don't matter right now. And there are a lot of Republicans in California and New York that are basically irrelevant right now, that now they're relevant. I'm not so sure that it would just be an immediate victory for the Democrats if you did go that route. So I'm not sure. I think as a matter of principle, yeah, you could probably make a pretty good case that the Electoral College should be abolished and go with a popular vote because it's more representative of the will of the people, that kind of thing. So, but I'm not convinced that it would result in consistent Democratic victories because the margins in the popular vote are also really close. So we should parachute Kremlin Kyle into North Korea 100% and then bomb it. Yep. Kyle would be the bomb. American Madhouse says, I'm against court packing. Net7 says Republicans are winning 100%. Spooky Nuki says, I'm anti-court packing. There's not much to be done about ACB at this point. I'll try to help the Dems win this election and see what happens from there. Yeah, well, that's what you do. If you're a Democrat, yeah, you fight harder, but you don't like go outside the system as it is right now. So Net7 says McConnell's revenge. He won 3 straight successful Supreme Court nominations. Yeah, and I want to take this time. I just want to say big thanks to Net7. After the interview and everything last night, he sent another donation to this channel, a $20 PayPal tip. So, you know, I really appreciate that. You know, obviously the financial support, that's what powers the daily streams. You know, obviously I'm going to make videos no matter what, but if you guys are compensating me, you guys are supporting me and everything, you're going to have more frequent content, right? So everybody, big ups to Net7, an absolutely based hawk and supporter of the channel. So thanks for your generosity, man. And thanks for coming on the show last night. We had a really good interview. You all should check out my interview with Net7. That was Hawk Talk episode 7. So it was a great stream. So American Madhouse says 9 is a good number. It's been that way since 1869. It should be made permanent. Yeah, that'd be smart. W.R. Winter says, Kevin, why would you acknowledge the acumen of your political opponents? That means acknowledging your own political failures. Much easier to demonize and play the victim. I mean, yeah, it's the sort of thing that, like, if you're socially liberal but economically kind of right wing, it's kind of a draw. It's kind of a toss up. Like I support like the Citizens United thing, for example. I think this idea that like, oh, money in politics is like it's the heart of all evil or whatever. That's dumb. People don't give donations to people they disagree with. It's not that big of an impact. Like no billionaires are going to give money to Bernie, and then Bernie's going to become like some super pro billionaire kind of guy or whatever. That's not a thing. They're not going to give him money. So. Spooky Nuki says, I'm not referring to medicine imported from Iran, but rather medicine the Iranians try to get, but supposedly can't because of U.S. sanctions. Well, yeah, that's what happens with sanctions, right? Is that, yeah, you can't get stuff from the country that's sanctioning you. That's kind of how that works. Do a war, get rid of the regime in Tehran, liberate the country, and then the Iranian people can get whatever medicine and stuff they want from the U.S. That's what I would suggest. I think the sanctions give a false sense of accomplishment. So I support war with Iran before they get nukes. Dr. Nuki says, abolish electoral college could potentially force Republicans to try to appeal to voters outside the heartland. No guaranteed Democrat victories for sure with that. Yeah, no, for sure. It's too close of a margin. Like, if in the popular vote, it was like 30 million votes extra for the Democrats, then the Electoral College, it was always like really kind of, on the nail, that kind of thing, like really close. Then yeah, you could say, hey, if you went with the popular vote, Democrats win every time. That makes sense. It's within like 1 to 2% each time. No, dude, like it's not going to give you instant victories. You're still going to have to fight. Like there's an argument to be made that it could hurt you too in the next 20 years. So Cal go boom. Nicholas says, okay, good. More people will have a voice even if I don't agree with them. Or am I supposed to be like McConnell and say, oh no, but I won't win? No, but it's not about you. That's the thing. Okay, look, I just got to say, before we go off air, I just want to make it very clear right now. Here's a bit of advice to people that are obviously not really fans of McConnell and whatnot. Don't think of him as somebody who's just me, and this is a win for me. Do you think of yourself and what you believe in politically and what you would try to do? Do you think of that as a win for you? So, for example, for me, right, what's my big thing? I want to take out the Kim regime in North Korea. And I don't care what if people call me spooky or ghoul or whatever. I'm going to use whatever means I can if I'm in charge to do it. Right now, obviously, I'm trying to change people's minds about it. But I don't care about the haters and traitors. And I don't care what they call me. And I don't care how much they whine and cry. And they call me mean names and stuff. I don't care. Do I want to take out the Kim regime because it's a victory for me, and I just want to win and I don't care, and I'm just a bad guy and like I don't care if Kim feels bad or whatever? No, obviously I don't see it as about me, right? It's about saving our civilization from nuclear destruction. It's about taking out the worst regime in human history. It's about, stopping just an apocalyptic war that would see the United States be rendered into no longer superpower status. For me, no, it's not about me. When I look at my opponents, when I look at AOC, for example, and I look at AOC, I don't like AOC. I don't like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I see her with the Green New Deal stuff. Do I think she just wants that through because it's all about her and she just wants to win and she doesn't care about the rest of the people? No, I genuinely think that she's deluded enough to think that would like make the world a better place and everything, and that everything would be roses and butterflies. I really think she thinks that would help everybody. Obviously, I think that my position on North Korea would help everybody in the long run, right? But with Mitch McConnell, it's just, it's all about him and just wins and he doesn't care about anybody else. No, he's a principled conservative. Try to understand things from his perspective. He has his convictions. He's convinced that doing this stuff will make America great again or whatever, that kind of thing. So when he gets a win, that's not just a win for him personally. He doesn't even really care about that. He doesn't really care if Trump gets the credit or he gets the credit, right? He doesn't really care. He cares about making the world a better place. Now, you can say, I disagree with him on everything. Yeah, but at least acknowledge he thinks he's making the world a better place. That would be my advice, is to try to understand where your opponent's coming from and understand that they're not selfish, they're not greedy, they're not grifty in that sense. Very few people out there are actual grifters. Like I've heard Ben Shapiro be called a grifter before. I'm like, how? He's a lifelong principled conservative. How is he a grifter? What's grifty about that? Like, what? How's that grifty? Likewise with McConnell. McConnell here is, when he gets a victory and, say, for example, with the Supreme Court, is he like, oh, yes, it's all about me and to hell with the country? No, he really thinks he's making America better. That's all I'm saying, is just try to think of your opponents as well-meaning, right? Like, look, for an extreme example, Hitler thought that he was making the world a better place. He didn't think he was the villain. If you read his stuff and what he said and everything, obviously he thought that he was like the superhero, right? So if you're incapable of getting inside the mind of your enemy, you're never really going to win. I mean, if you're smart, what you would do is try to understand how they think and where they're coming from so you can counter them. If you just immediately just write them off as, they just have this kind of motivation or whatever, and they're just like the bad guy or whatever. Like, no, did Kim Jong-il think he was the bad guy? Did Kim Il-sung think he was the bad guy? Did Stalin think he was the bad guy? Did Mao think he was the bad guy? No, they all thought that they were, creating communism or whatnot and all this kind of stuff, right? They were communists. They thought that was the best path for the world, right? I mean, again, that's my advice. And if you keep on having these sorts of caricatures where you think like, McConnell, he's like satanic and this kind of stuff or whatever, it's like, no, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. You're not going to win. You have to acknowledge that they think that they're the good guys. And like I said, I don't like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I think she thinks she's one of the good guys. So I think Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks thinks he's one of the good guys, even though he takes like Qatari money and denies the Armenian genocide and all this stuff. In his view, he's like, yeah, but the Turks are the greatest. And like, the Qataris, they fund their progressive movement, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. like we disagree, right? So Mitch McConnell is morphing into Palpatine, like even physically now. Yeah, but this isn't a movie or whatever. Like, this is the real world. Madhouse says you can't make an argument against the EC, Electoral College. That wouldn't also apply to the Senate. Why should a state with a population of less than 1 million get the same number of senators as one with 25 million? Yeah. Reese says, become the McConnell. Reese says, I find the idea of 2 senators for Wyoming and 2 senators for California a little silly. Yep. Ghoul gang for life. Wyatt says, AOC thinks she is in the right, but I bet she knows she barely thinks things through, though. I'm not even sure. Like, it's like Dunning-Kruger. When you're so dumb, you're pretty confident because you don't realize all the things that you don't know yet. I think she's kind of in that area. She speaks on foreign policy and stuff, and she bungles everything. She like mixes up issues related to Palestine and Israel and whatnot. She's not that bright. She's not that bright. Is she well-meaning? Yeah, I'll say. I think she means well. I don't think she's nefarious. I don't think she's grifting or whatever. I think she really believes the stuff that she says, and I don't think that she's that bright. So Wyatt says Mitch is great. Oh man, yeah. I mean, yeah, I was just making the point. Like, the Democrats should learn from Mitch McConnell. They shouldn't be learning from Barack Obama. So Wyatt says, I think the point of the Senate is not to represent population, but purely as a check against the House. Yeah, so that's an interesting conversation there. Like, I can see that argument, right? If you're going to have 2 chambers, have one that's more representative, but have one that's supposed to be, you know, the saying is like a sober second check, right? I mean, that's to kind of prevent the tyranny of the mob, that kind of thing. Yeah, Wilson says the majority isn't always right, and they need checks against their power. Yeah, I kind of like the Senate system as it is, even though I get that it's kind of silly. I think you could make a better case for the Electoral College going away and having it being a popular vote than you could for making the Senate based on popular distribution, that kind of thing. I think in all countries, like in Canada, the Senate is like it's an appointed sort of thing. It's not an elected thing. In a lot of countries, the Senate is always designed to be that sober second check, that it's purposefully not 100% democratic or whatever, you know, because it's designed as a mechanism for stability in a democracy to counter the more volatile elements of a representative democracy. So you prevent like total chaos and runaway change, that kind of stuff. It says, yeah, people complaining about population is not wanting a republic. No elected official is elected by 100% of their state, and the rights are held up often by senators in less populous states. It says California Republicans in part are represented by Wyoming Republican senators. Yeah, it's an interesting way to think about it. That it's not local representation, but that on the whole, your interests can be balanced and stuff. Yeah. I'm gonna have to wrap up the stream now. We obviously I was on on his show for a couple hours. I talked about the riots. We did this stream for an hour, and there's a lot of news and everything. The election's coming up, so be sure to like this video, subscribe to Superpower Broadcasting if you haven't done so yet. Definitely subscribe to me on Twitch. Follow me on Twitch. Links in the description below for as long as the Twitch channel exists. And if you want to support what I do, my Patreon is in the link in the description. Once we hit $100 a month, we'll be up to daily pre-recorded videos in addition to live streams. And the pre-recorded ones will premiere to YouTube. So we're at $69 a month right now. $31 more to go. We're getting closer. And if you want to send your boy a tip, you can join the PayPal gang like Net7, and you can send me a tip over on PayPal. But with that, I'm gonna wrap this up. I think it's getting pretty late and whatnot. So I'll be back tomorrow night. But thanks for being here, everybody, and have a good night. Peace.